Now, a short while ago, the president released what is essentially a propaganda video on Facebook, repeating some of the same lies he and his team have told time and again about the election results. We are not showing you any excerpts from that video because the allegations made by the president have been rejected in the courts as well as by state election officials from both parties, not to mention from his own attorney general. And the video, we should note, Wolf, was produced over here at the White House, on the White House grounds, not in view of the press. Reporters were not in the room when the president made these comments. Wolf.
Trump is also releasing a 46-minute video full of baseless claims about voter fraud, which we are not going to air clips of because to do so would amplify things that are factually untrue, and the president knows to be factually untrue.
Thank you. This may be the most important speech I've ever made. I want to provide an update on our ongoing efforts to expose the tremendous voter fraud and irregularities which took place during the ridiculously long November 3rd elections. We used to have what was called Election Day. Now we have election days, weeks and months, and lots of bad things happened during this ridiculous period of time, especially when you have to prove almost nothing to exercise our greatest privilege, the right to vote. As president, I have no higher duty than to defend the laws and the Constitution of the United States. That is why I am determined to protect our election system, which is now under coordinated assault and siege. For months leading up to the presidential election, we were warned that we should not declare a premature victory. We were told repeatedly that it would take weeks, if not months, to determine the winner, to count the absentee ballots, and to verify the results. My opponent was told to stay away from the election. Don't campaign. We don't need you. We've got it. This election is done. In fact, they were acting like they already knew what the outcome was going to be. They had it covered, and perhaps they did, very sadly for our country. It was all very, very strange. Within days after the election, we witnessed an orchestrated effort to anoint a winner, even while many key states were still being counted. The constitutional process must be allowed to continue. We are going to defend the honesty of the vote by ensuring that every legal ballot is counted and that no illegal ballot is counted. This is about honoring the votes of 74 million Americans who voted for me. It's about ensuring that Americans can have faith in this election and in all future elections.
Welcome to the War Room. It's Thursday, December the 3rd, the year of our Lord 2020, broadcasting live from Capitol Hill. I'm Raheem Kassam, Greg Manz, Jack Maxey in studio here on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Real America's Voice, G News, GTV, live on Newsmax later on in the day. And of course, I think approaching now 22 million podcast downloads. I want to make sure that everybody's subscribing, leaving reviews across all the podcast platforms. We're incredibly grateful for your support. I said just to Jack Maxey before we came live on air, these are the times, Jack. They are indeed. And you heard from President Trump there, one of the most important addresses he has given. Stephen K. Bannon is on special assignment today, so you're stuck with us once again. But the feedback was pretty good yesterday morning. I feel like we didn't do too much of a disservice, so I want to keep that record up and keep the energy high here. We got a series of great guests over the course of this show today, so make sure you're smashing those like and share buttons. Let's, gentlemen, open with what we just heard. CNN saying, hey, we're simply not going to air this. We're not going to air these claims. We're not going to air what the President of the United States himself thinks is one of the most important things that he could ever say to both the national and international audience about what went down at this election. And let's recap that just for a second. It was here on this show months ago first that you heard, hey, they don't want election day anymore. They want election weeks. They want election months. We said it, because we got our hands on the Transition Integrity Project's document from way back when they gave the game away. But the other thing was they said, remember, hey, you're not allowed, Republicans, Trump campaign, Donald Trump, you're not allowed to proclaim victory at any point until we say you are. But Trump pointed out just there, the president pointed out there himself, didn't apply to the Democrats. Democrats are out there the next day. We got it. We won it. Joe Biden's the president-elect. Everything's, everyone's declaring victory for the Democrats. And it was a ruse. It was a big, stinking ruse that should have been seen more clearly, should have been seen coming more clearly. And the other thing I know that the audience is going to want to talk about today and hear from us about today is this raging fight that's taking place over Georgia. It's not comfortable. It's not. Nobody said this was going to be comfortable. Nobody told you, and if they did, they lied to you, that these months were going to be comfortable. We all knew what was going to happen in January. We all knew this was going to take place, whether you like the candidates or not. We're going to be talking to John Fredericks in the next segment about what's going on down there in Georgia. But I'll give you my 2 cents and ask the gentlemen to weigh in if they want, because frankly, there's not a lot of upside to weighing into this fight. I will say this: publishing an article. I know Breitbart published an article yesterday. Saying, hey, you can't trust a guy that once donated to Democrats. Is an absolute nonsense. You wouldn't have the president you have right now if that was the case. And not publishing the whole FEC records, as we're about to do on the nationalpulse.com of Lynn Wood, is disingenuous. I'm not having a go. I'm not trying to start an air war here. I'm just saying that's my opinion. But it's also my opinion that people should vote in that Senate runoff. I'm sorry. I know that's going to anger some people. I'll be watching in the comments. I get it. And here's how I get it. Here's how much I understand. I was the guy who in 2014 left Britain's Conservative Party, where I was on a fast track. I would be a government minister by now. Fact. My friends that I ran campaigns for, that I worked in the Conservative Party's youth branch with at the time, are government ministers now. But the Conservative Party wasn't doing the right thing at the time. It wasn't doing the right thing. It didn't represent the Conservative base. And so I joined the UK Independence Party, Nigel Farage's group. And people came up to me, they prodded me in the chest. They said, "You are on a fast track to irrelevance. How dare you stab the Conservative Party in the back? After all we've done for you, you owe us." So I get it that Republicans and the Republican Party has not treated you well. And yes, you owe it nothing. But you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your nation that the Democrats do not take the Senate. Guess why? Because the entire Trump agenda is gone in 100 days. The last 4 years is gone in 100 days. If Joe Biden worms his way into the Oval Office and the Democrats take the Senate, the last 5 years have been for nothing. Now, I'll add this. It is not my job to tell you what to do. And you're big enough, you're ugly enough to do whatever you think is right. So do it, gentlemen.
No, I'm in 100% agreement with you. This idea of cutting off your nose to spite your face is not the way to victory, okay? Now, there's no question that those Senate candidates in Georgia are not showing the spine that we would like to see. But just because they don't have spine doesn't mean that we can't have spine. And we can put spine in them once they get into office. We can hold them to account. We need to do this with all of our elected officials. This should be an inflection moment for every American to begin to demand that they get the work out of these people that they're putting into these positions with high salaries and pensions and every other blessing that comes from getting on the government teat. But what we need to do is we've got to have them in power in order to be able to control them. Because if we lose the Senate, guys, it's literally all over. We have run out of, shall we say, civil methods of controlling the future. So the important thing for me is to motivate the people of Georgia. I want to have somebody standing out of every polling place in January with recall petitions for the entire leadership of the Senate and the governor of Georgia. But I want people out there voting. And I agree with Sidney Powell. Let's not do it with the Dominion voting systems again. There is no reason that you couldn't go to Kinko's and print up enough ballots for the election on the 5th of January. We've got to get rid of Dominion. We've got to get rid of this electronic nonsense. Paper ballots worked for 200 years. And have you noticed they tell us, oh, when we go electronic, it's going to be easier. We'll be able to measure everything. In fact, it's been worse. So we're not just trying to take back the presidency for the President Trump. We're trying to take back this country. This should be a clarion call for everybody that they need to stand their ground and they need to fight like they have never fought before, because it is just starting now, people.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that the Senate has in its arsenal is the confirmation process. So whether it's President Trump's second term administration, new people coming into these high-powered positions within the United States government, or it's a Joe Biden administration, then the Senate is that backstop for either the people that are complicit with China getting put into the administration or the America First people that President Trump is going to bring into his second term.
I totally agree with you. And here's the thing. I am never dishonest with the audience. I don't believe that anybody in this room is. I don't believe that any of our guests would be. And we're never going to talk down to you either. And then this is why I disagreed with the Breitbart article, because it was kind of a do as we tell you to do type of thing. No, this is going to be up to you. This is going to be up to Georgia voters for themselves to figure out whether in good conscience they can cast that vote. Fine. But what we're here to do is explain to you the consequences of that vote. Explain to you where the country goes over the next year, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, if on January the 5th, enough people go, hey, tough break, Georgia Republicans, you didn't expedite this process enough. Hey, here's the thing, and correct me if I'm wrong. There is plenty of time for internal fighting, plenty of time for some bloodletting, plenty of time for some renewed Tea Party vigor to force the rhinos out, to force the people, the feckless people who do nothing to the positions that they're elected to do when they're supposed to be tackling this stuff. There's plenty of time for that. My humble opinion, again, never going to tell you what to do. My humble opinion is that you allow that process to take place, take part in that process, and then take over the local party, then take over the state party. I just do not see a benefit to losing the Senate. I don't see a benefit to it.
Yeah, and listen, this is a month away, people. This is, we can't be in a panic mode here. We have to prepare for this. I think we should follow the advice of Lynn Wood, Sidney Powell. I think we should hold the legislature to account. There's no reason that we have to have a Dominion voting system operating this January 5th election. But I can tell you what, this is the time to show up. This is the time to stand and be counted. We've said this for weeks now. Hold your ground. Because if we deny the ability to control this process through the electoral process, what's the other process that we're going to fall back on? So be calm, be measured, be prepared, but let's try and win this at the ballot box first.
By the way, I will say this just before we go to break. It's the right argument. The idea of the consent of the governed is the right argument to be having. We are on the right track in terms of discussing what you do when your election is totally defrauded. That is absolutely the right thing that we all should be talking about right now. We the people is not just a platitude. It's the basis of everything. All right, we're going to be back in just a moment. More War Room, Pandemic, Greg Mans, Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam, and your comments, and John Fredericks.
War Room, Pandemic, with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room, Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Well, Mayor Giuliani was on fire again yesterday. We're going to bring you more of that, more clips from there as well. There's so much more going on today. Greg Mans will get an update from what's going on all around the country, what's being filed, where, what we're expecting, the timeline. Welcome back to the War Room. Jack Maxey, Greg Mans, Raheem Kassam, and now John Fredericks on the John Fredericks Radio Network. John, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Raheem, and guys, thanks for having me today in Georgia.
So, John, just when you thought it couldn't get more fiery. You get this Breitbart article that drops last night. Really, fire and brimstone aimed at Attorney Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell's efforts down there. Walk us through a little bit about what's going on the ground, what the reaction has been. Is this even relevant? And what people are saying. What your take is on what people are saying about actually going out and voting.
Well, number one, let's get to the hit piece that Breitbart did yesterday on Lynn Wood, which is a despicable piece of nonsensical journalism. I've got it from many of my better sources that this came directly from Mitch McConnell's communications department, fed to Breitbart, written by people that are sitting their butt in a bubble in some elite office in Washington, D.C., and not out with the people and not listening. That was a despicable piece of journalism against a man who has put his heart and soul in trying to uncover the truth. The fact that Lynn Wood donated to Democrats, was a Democrat, voted for Democrats, is completely irrelevant. The entire Trump movement, the new coalition, is built around former Democrats who have had enough. Vernon Jones, the person who was leading the Trump effort in Georgia, who was on my show today, is a sitting House of Representatives member of the Democratic Party of Georgia. Not retired, sitting. He went to the General Assembly today and sat with Stacey Abrams in the Democrat caucus. Are you going to do a hit piece on him? This is despicable what they did. It's the end for them. Nobody's ever going to take this news network of Breitbart seriously again. You guys are going to take over. Let me tell you, they're not listening. I mean, Newt Gingrich came out today and blasted Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell. Here's what they've said. If you would take the time to go to the rally like I did and talk to the 1,500 people that were there, all of them
John,
wildly cheering.
John, that's a great point. So walk us through what exactly their point is, because a lot of people, and especially, I mean, if what you're saying is true about this coming from McConnell's office, we'll be looking into that. But it does seem like they're being misrepresented. So let's represent their position accurately. Go ahead, John Fredericks.
If you don't stop the fraud and change the system, the exact same thing is going to happen on January 5th that happened on November 3rd. I mean, I had Vernon Jones on today. He said, hey, we need another 15,000 votes. Somebody called in immediately and said, what's the difference? They'll just find 16,000 and steal it again. The point is, they're going to steal it again if you don't change it. And so let me tell you the other thing that happened last night.
Please.
Is one of the people at the rally said to me, hey, we are done being told by our leaders what to do. They're not in charge. We, the deplorables, are in charge. And the person said, we're going to weaponize our vote. I said, well, what do you want? She said, we want action now. We want a special session now. We either get action or we stay home on January 5th. Hey, Republicans, pick one. It's one or the other. So what Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell said yesterday, they never said don't vote. They said don't vote if they won't do anything because you're going to have the same outcome and participate in the same fraudulent process. So they're simply trying to get their attention. Meantime, David Perdue, nowhere to be found. Kelly Loeffler, nowhere to be found. Didn't come to the rally. Haven't heard from them. They will not take up Trump's case. And so if you listen to the people that are in Georgia on the ground, the voters that Loeffler needs, the voters that Perdue needs in order to win, and I save the republic, you got to listen to the voters. They want action. They want Perdue to come out and say, we're going to stop the fraud. Right. They want him to demand a special session. They want action, not words, not the same thing. Just go and vote and do what we say. A caller yesterday had a state senator on who said, hey, you have to go out and vote on January 5th. You have to do this to save the republic. And the gentleman said to him, Senator, in all due respect, you don't get it. I don't have to do crap. That's really what's happening. This is a movement, Raheem, I've never seen anything like it in the past 5 or 6 days here. People in Georgia are angry, they're fired up, and they're not going to take it anymore. And if you simply think they're going to turn out on January 5th because Newt Gingrich sends an email, those days are over. It's gone. They want action. And they've seen the president fight and fight and fight, and they want their representatives to fight for them or they're checking out. So that's really the message.
John, this is why you are the oracle of the deplorables. You're right. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about this here in fancy buildings in ivory towers in Washington, D.C., and are not on the ground like you are. We'll talk to Bernie Kerik in the next segment as well when Rudy Giuliani's team gets down there too. Jack Maxey, Greg Manns, any questions for John here?
John, one of the things that I see happening here, and it's not just in Georgia, and I've had many, many sober people, sharp tip of the thoughtful people who tell me that this is going to head towards armed conflict unless we get this squared away. I am not speaking with my hair on fire. I'm not talking about radicals in the streets. I'm talking about thoughtful people who have spent many years in harm's way, who feel that this is falling apart. And I will blame the Republican leadership if they do not show some spine now, because they will own whatever bad things occur if they don't stand their ground right now. And I think it is very, very frightening that you have American citizens, patriotic American citizens, who are willing to give up on the election process because they believe it is so flawed. And as I've said before, there's not a lot of room to go to if we're going to give up on the election process. So I think it would behoove every single elected official in the GOP to start getting some backbone in there and start doing their jobs, because the outcome of this is not going to be pretty if the average deplorable just decides to throw up his hands and say nobody is trustworthy.
Well, look, I really can't comment on that. I've never heard, I've been here for 3 weeks. I've never heard anybody say anything about taking this to that level. So I don't know.
I'm not saying that they're taking it. I'm saying that, John, a lot of people are describing their fear that people are going to take it to that level. And they're not, these are not crazy people
I haven't
saying
heard
this
that.
to me.
Yeah, I could just tell you what I've heard. I mean, I haven't heard any of that. But what I have heard is inaction is going to be the end of the Republican Party as we know it. It no longer it exists in name only. This is what you got to understand. The Republican Party exists in name only right now. It is a very loose coalition right now. But the driving force are the deplorables, and they've had enough, and they want to see action on the behalf of their elected leaders. And what Lin Wood said yesterday, and he said it over and over, and it got cheers every time. He said, just because they have Senator by their name, just because they have GOV dot by their name, they don't have anything. You have all the power. Exercise it. The power's in your hands. This is what they don't get. Yes, they can shut down your bars. They can put you out of school. They can put you out of business on a temporary basis. But at the end of the day, the deplorables are figuring out, look, we have the power, not them. We're going to exercise it. And the only way they can do that right now is by threatening not to show up on January 5th. And what they're saying is it's so reasonable. It's like, why should I go through this again when I know the same thing is going to happen again? When they're going to back up a tractor trailer like they did in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, with 280,000 ballots from Bethpage, New York, when in Pennsylvania you had 1.8 million ballots that went out, 2.5 million that came back. Nobody's investigating this. Nobody's standing up for them. So until these Republicans in Georgia do something, they're going to lose.
What do you think? Okay. John, I understand the position. I think the audience understands the position. So what specifically needs to be done, and realistically, what can be done between now and that election date that you think will turn people out? What actual steps? Right? No talk. Not about talk. What actual steps?
David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler have to come out and acknowledge that there is massive allegations of voter fraud in Georgia. They have to demand that it be investigated and looked at to the fullest, and they have to demand that the governor call a special session. That is what the voters want. It doesn't matter that they can do anything in the special session or not. They want this addressed. They want the fraud to stop. They're concerned about the another 950 absentee ballots that Stacey Abrams just mailed out. Yeah. They want a special session so their views can be aired and so these fraud allegations can be thoroughly vetted. That's what they're demanding. And until they give that to them,
like
you're going to have this same thing. And
doesn't sound like too much to ask. Yeah.
They want action. And the other thing, Raheem, the final point is they've seen 4 years of President Trump and what he's gone through and how he's fought and he's made things happen. And so excuses don't matter to them.
John,
they look at Purdue and they look at Kelly Loeffler.
John, we've got to bounce. We're right at the end of the segment here.
They're not acting.
John, we'll have you back very soon. Thank you so much for joining us from Georgia. John Fredericks, the Oracle of the Deplorables. Make sure you're following John Fredericks on YouTube, John Fredericks Radio Network. We'll be back in just a second.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Of the President of the United States, but as he said today in a speech from the White House, it's his sworn duty and obligation to make sure that election integrity and free and fair elections are preserved in this country.
And now you're asked, the legislature is to take, and if I'm wrong again, tell me, to take evidence that, and put my name to it, and say that this is definitely what happened. This is somebody won. I assume it wasn't Kanye West. I don't know. But to figure it out, and you want us to make the decision, and then put our stamp of approval on it.
No, I don't want you to do it. The Constitution of the United States says you should do it.
We want
All right. I don't want you to do it.
There you go. That's Rudy Giuliani on fire down there in was that Michigan? That was Michigan. Extraordinary stuff. Commander of the British Empire, by the way, Bernie Kerik, joins us now, former New York City Police Commissioner. Bernie, thank you so much for being with us here this morning. I know you guys are all over the place, dotting all over the country, taking on this fraud, tackling this fraud, highlighting it. Incredible scenes there. From I don't know, was he trying to be cute? That guy trying to be cute? From the I don't know if Kanye West won or whatever it is. But Rudy Giuliani just kaboom! I don't want you to do it. Constitution of the United States wants you to do it. Bernie, fill us in. Where are we? Where do we stand? How did last night go?
I think last night went well. I think, our job is to collect the evidence, present it to the legislators, expose it to the American people, let them see what we have. I'm really getting fed up with a lot of these politicians that are going public and saying that we haven't seen the evidence. Right. Here's my challenge to them. Anybody that says they haven't seen the evidence, call me, call Mayor Giuliani. I'll put together a binder of about 1,000 sworn affidavits, sworn under the penalty of perjury, no different if they were going into a federal or state grand jury. I'll give you those affidavits. You look at them. This evidence is no different than evidence you would put before a grand jury, and you would get indictments out of them. And I can assure you, if you took the evidence we have and put it before a federal grand jury, somebody would be in handcuffs already. So at the end of the day, stop saying there isn't any evidence. There's overwhelming evidence of wrongdoing, voter criminality, corruption. There's tons of it. If you need to see it, want to see it, let me know. I'll get a binder to you.
Lindsey Graham goes on Fox News and says to the Trump legal team, you're making all these claims. You've got to prove it. Doing a video is not proof. You need to take these claims into a court of law and get relief. I thought that was what you guys were trying to do.
Well, that's what we're attempting to do. And it doesn't help when you have people making those kind of statements, especially Somebody like Lindsey Graham, who was a former prosecutor, he should be exposing what we have. We're not making the claims. We're taking the claims before the legislature in these various states, whether it's Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona. Today, we're in wherever I am, Georgia. We're in Georgia right now, in Atlanta. We're going to be doing the same thing in Atlanta. And I urge these congressmen and these members of the Senate, if you don't believe the evidence, call me. I'll give you a binder of sworn affidavits, 1,000, 2,000, whatever you want. Give me a number. I've got them. So, not only are we pushing here, we're going to be pushing into the courts as well.
Well, I tell you what, just very quickly, Bernie, before I want to bring Jack Maxey in on this conversation as well, is that I'll take you up on that offer of that binder electronically or physically. No, I'll tell you why. Because I encounter these people in Washington, D.C. every day. Let's get Jack Maxey doing what he was doing with the Biden thing. We'll dish out USB sticks all over town. Let people go through the evidence for themselves. Because as you say, I've seen most of it. I've seen a lot of the statistical analysis. It's compelling. It's hard evidence. There's affidavits all over the place. But one of the complaints I constantly get is, where can I see it all in one place? So fine. Let's duplicate 1,000 hard drives and distribute them all over town. So people like Lindsey Graham cannot stand on Fox News and lie that the evidence isn't out there already to see.
Well, I think one of the things that I've seen with a guy...
Listen, I have no problem with it.
Like with Lindsey Graham, Bernie, as you said, one of the things I think we're seeing across the board, we saw it in that panel of legislators in Michigan yesterday, amongst many of them. You see it with Lindsey Graham. It's this absolute disdain for the American citizen who pays their bills, puts them in office. Here you have thousands of regular American citizens equal to these representatives in every respect, in fact, more equal because we employ them, and yet these elected representatives show that they have absolute disdain for the people that they represent. Imagine the effort that goes into taking yourself out of your regular life, making these allegations, filling out all these forms and to it with a perjury charge over your head. And you have a guy like Lindsey Graham who just poo-poos that as if it's nothing. I can now say it because he's been elected. The one person I was praying would lose would be Lindsey Graham. This man has shown himself at every opportunity to have zero spine. And let's remember something. If Lindsey hadn't wanted his little grandstanding program where he had to have 3 weeks of hearings and then a vote where they never had, they could have just done it on day one, we wouldn't have had this problem with the mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania. This election would have had a different outcome. So as far as I'm concerned, Lindsey Graham, keep your mouth shut. You have zero respect from Jack Maxey, and I imagine the same from our audience. You, sir, have been a problem from day one for this MAGA revolution, and you're pretend to be a part of it to get reelected. But the moment you have an opportunity to throw a wrench in the works, we can rely on you, Lindsey Graham, to do that.
So, Bernie, Kerik, give us any feedback for Jack Maxey there. I mean, I think he speaks for he's the conscience of the war room, right? Speaks for the audience here. And I wonder if you agree with that. But also, give us a rundown now of what we can expect to see today. The media makes fun of you guys. They say, hey, Rudy Giuliani and the team, they're on their farewell tour. This is, it's all really nice and funny for them. Give us a preview of what else is to come.
Listen, with regard to Jack's comments, I'm going to tell you something. Many of the people, and this is one of the frustrating things for me personally, many of the people that would have never gotten elected if not for Donald Trump. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, they would not have gotten elected. They got elected, and now basically they've abandoned Donald Trump, and they've moved on their way. It is infuriating, and they know better. They know better. You have to be an absolute moron to basically stand up in public today and say there's no evidence, because they know better. So, But I guess that's the Washington swamp. As far as what's going on today, we're here in the Capitol in Georgia. The mayor and Jenna Ellis, the president's attorney, will go through the evidence that we have on Georgia specific. There'll be conversations about the equipment, the machines, the Dominion machines, the Smartmatic technology, all of the things that we've seen in these other states. And keep this in mind, guys. There are now 6, 8, maybe 10 states where we've seen the same conduct, the same criminal conduct, the same, keeping observers from overseeing the tabulation, from seeing the ballots come into the room, from seeing the chain of command, the same problems with the machines. People are saying there's no internet connection, but, there is. Thumb drives being used in these computers, in these machines. And there's one thing, I want everybody to think about this one thing. Who's missing from every one of these hearings? The Dominion leadership. Where is the company that's contracted to these states, that's contracted to these counties? Where's Dominion? Why aren't they in these hearings? Why aren't they responding, walking in?
Because Caracas is lovely this time of year.
They're nowhere to be found.
Bernie, as a law enforcement guy,
they're nowhere to be found.
As a guy with decades of experience in law enforcement, where do you think the FBI should have been on this, and some of the other law enforcement agencies, even within the various states, as all of this was going on? And I also wonder, where were the postal inspectors who were so capable of showing up at everyone's house willy-nilly 6 months ago, but where were they during this whole process?
What's funny, guys? I was talking this night to the mayor. So often the mainstream media drives the FBI and drives the Department of Justice. There'll be a one paragraph in a Washington Post or New York Times story, and based on that one paragraph, the FBI or DOJ will show up at somebody's house, start dropping subpoenas, and there's a major investigation that comes out of that. In this case, there's overwhelming evidence in 6, 8, 10 states, and there's, without any doubt in anybody's mind, this was all connected. The instructions on how to basically commit voter fraud, how to operate the machines in a nefarious manner, overwhelming evidence, and the FBI's nowhere to be found. It's insane. This is insane.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's right. Greg, you look like you got...
Yeah, so now that we're talking about Georgia, the president did just tweet the quote-unquote Republican governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, and the Secretary of State must immediately allow signature verification match on the presidential election. If that happens, we quickly and easily win the state and, importantly, pave the way for a big David and Kelly win.
Bernie, your thoughts?
You know what? I honestly, I know the president's coming down here on Saturday. You know what? The people of Georgia and the people that want these senators to win, they need to support the president. If I was the president personally, I wouldn't go to Georgia. I wouldn't get them elected. He's gotten everybody else elected, and they ran like cowards.
Wow.
If I was the president, I'd say, you do your job, and then I'll do mine.
I think we just broke some news here, guys. I think that's a pretty big call. Bernie, Kerik, I want to just thank you as well for being on here today. We've got about a minute left before the break here. Just can you give us an idea of what kind of timings people should be looking out for today, where they'll be able to... I know Real America's Voice will be covering as much as possible. What kind of timings are you set to get underway today?
I think the hearing begins at 1. We'll start at 1.
Yeah.
Usually they'll last between 2 and 3, maybe 4 hours. But I urge everybody to tune in, pay attention to what's said, pay attention to the cyber forensics people that will talk about Dominion. And then ask your legislators, how did you buy this equipment? How did you rent this and lease this equipment? Who did the due diligence on the equipment? How did you not know before you did this? Because my personal opinion is They did know. They did know. It's in the manuals. It's in the manuals. All you have to do is some basic due diligence. Carolyn Maloney of New York, Warren of Pocahontas. They didn't want these machines. They wrote about
Bernie,
these
we're
machines.
up against
They
the
didn't
break
want them.
right here. We're up against the break, but thank you so much for joining us here. We'll speak again soon. Bernie Kerik there. We'll be back after this break.
Thanks, guys.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Yes.
Would you say that about 100,000 false documents were created?
Yeah, from September 22nd till, I would say, till September 30th. Yeah, about 10 days. I mean, I was there till October 2nd.
And you estimated, when we went over this, about 10,000 a day.
Yeah, anywhere between 10,000 to 15,000. Yeah, sometimes we will be able to complete. I even remember 14,000 packages. Sometimes it's 12,000. So you can just, to be on the safe side, you can say 10,000 per day. That's a good number.
And just before we leave this, would your supervisor say this to all of you publicly? In other words, he would say, today, the date we're going to use is
this date.
Whatever.
Yes. Yeah, that's the announcement.
In other words, you had the phony date of the day.
Yeah, that's the announcement they will make, yes, on the floor, yes. The first thing I will do is I will enter the voter and you will do a voter search. Then the system will tell you whether city already mailed a absentee ballot to them or not. Whether there is an active ballot in the QEF system for that voter. So when you do that, lots of time you will see a ballot has been already sent to that voter. But when they come to you, they said, I never requested a ballot. I never received any ballot. I never requested for a ballot. Can I vote now? I'm here. I want to vote now. I said, of course. I mean, I can spoil the ballot. Then I can issue another ballot, and you can vote. So I have done that many times. But I was instructed to do like that.
Backdating the ballots. It's a lot of hey Lindsey Graham. Earth to Lindsey Graham. There are your affidavits, there are your witnesses, there's the testimony that a lot of judges wouldn't even hear in a courtroom, so they're putting together these hearings across the country themselves. Mayor Giuliani, Janet Ellis, the legal team off their own backs, these brave Americans coming forward, signing affidavits, putting their names, their faces, their families, their jobs, all on the line to tell the truth about what happened. Jack Maxey.
You know, one of the things that really moved me watching her and watching several other women like her was to see these little immigrant women who so value their citizenship, so love this country that they're willing to put it all on the line. So for all you people out there who are sitting on the fence, or Lindsey Graham who's hiding somewhere in a sauna, that's what courage looks like. And that's what people need to do and stand up. This little wisp of a woman, you saw her there running her rosary through her fingers as she's doing probably the most courageous thing of her life. And the rest of us sit back and complain. People, take courage. Look at her. Follow her lead. There are thousands like her and millions more. They're not going to take this country from us if we all stand up and show the courage of someone like Jasmine, who really moved me. I had tears in my eyes listening to her describe her feeling for this country, because it exactly matches my own.
Yeah, and multiple times in the hearing in Michigan last night, the witnesses pushed back on the legislators when they were questioning their affidavits and their testimony yesterday, saying we signed this willingly, knowing that there could be criminal prosecution against us if we are lying here today. So there was strong pushback on what they were putting down in their name based off of the knowledge that criminal acts could come against them if they're found to be lying.
What is this? What is this? You know, with these state legislators getting all cutesy in these hearings with, I don't know if Kanye West won, and there was another one with the lady you were talking about getting all cute about the book and the way it was put together. Who are these people? And these are Republicans who aren't even willing to hear people who are coming forward. Let me tell you this, right? Humility goes an awful long way in life. Trust me, I know I learned the hard way. Just to sit there and listen. These are it's what you said, Jack. A lot of these cases, small immigrant women who come from places around the world, who have immigrated legally from places around the world where they have seen what societies look like when they don't have the protections that the US Constitution affords them, that they don't have free and fair elections. They know what tyranny looks like. They've lived it. And they're trying to do something right so that it doesn't happen here too. And you have these sniveling, weedy, effeminate Republican men up there going, yeah, you're Kanye West.
It's appalling, and it's what I spoke about, the disdain that our leadership has for us. Probably they're overpaid. They shouldn't have the job. Look at Texas. They run that whole state. They don't sit that legislature for the whole year. I think it's time that we start pulling back the rope on these people and taking back our country at every single level. This should be a clarion call, a wake-up moment for the whole country. We're going to fight this thing out. We're going to fight for Donald Trump, but I can tell you right now, I don't think anybody who has lived through this election will ever put up with another crooked election going forward. And that is one of the positive things that we can take from this. I was saying to Vish last night, I said, can you imagine how poignant it is to see this republic be saved by 3 or 4 little brown immigrant women? That made me just tear up thinking this is how wonderful this country is, because it has a place for everybody. And what this country does more than anything is it rewards hard work and it rewards courage. And God bless those ladies. I hope that they inspire millions to follow their lead.
Yeah, honestly, God bless everyone who is standing up and fighting, putting their shoulder to the wheel at this point in time. I want to make sure that we remind the audience we'll be back again in the next hour with Steve Cortez will be joining us. He wrote this just amazing op-ed for the National Pulse, really detailed, lots of numbers, lots of statistics. When Steve Cortez writes an op-ed, there's actually not a lot of there's not a lot of opinion. It's fact, bang, it's in the face. He'll be on with us shortly, talk about that. Brian Kennedy will be joining us as well, talk about what's going on in Nevada. I want to make sure that in the break, you have 2 minutes in the break, take an action, share the show, subscribe, leave a review, go to warroom.org, pandemic.warroom.org, head over to the National Pulse, share something, make sure that people are seeing. In the live chat as well, I've put up Linwood's record, full FEC donation records. Not like Breitbart, which gives you, hey, in 2008, he gave to this person. No, full thing. You can go through it yourself. You're big enough, you're ugly enough. And so are we. We'll be right back.